What's up, guys? Welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/TalesFromTheLaw. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode. This story's called, My Lawyer Has About Half a Dozen Problems with That. The following takes place at an old workplace. I no longer work there, which I am grateful for almost every single day when something else reminds me of the old insanity. The CEO had a lot of pet projects up his sleeve, some of which he would deign to share with me, usually when they were so broken or behind schedule that it would require nothing less than a minor miracle to get them done on time. And I was his personal miracle worker.
Hey, OP.
Here we go again. What do you need?
I had a guy helping me out with a program, but he's pulled out.
Okay, back the truck up here, please. What program?
Oh, the program runs on a computer hooked up to the paging receiver and logs messages.
Okay, the paging receiver is a pretty simple serial port connection.
Oh, and you can configure the receiver through the program too.
Configuring the receiver should be possible, assuming we can drive it through serial port commands.
And it creates a text file with all the day's messages in it. Then, on the first of the month, zips them all into a single archive. It also displays today's messages, color-coded based on keywords in the pager message.
Well, it's certainly doable.
Good!
What's the time frame?
Oh, ASAP. I want to start distributing the software early next year.
Wait, so you're going to be distributing the software? The previous developer must have been work for hire, so where's the source?
No, he was doing it in his spare time, for free. He got worried that his full-time employer,
Major competitor,
an enormous multinational corporation that would crush us like a bug, would find out he was helping us.
Wait, he works for the competition?
Yeah, but I know him from when we worked together 30 years back, so he was helping me out.
So, about that source code?
Oh no, he's not releasing any of it.
So we don't own or have any right to distribute the software. I discovered that the developer had not just backed out, but had also formally requested, in writing no less, that the CEO delete any copies and return any and all install media with his software on it. So your plan was to give away copies of this software that you don't own and have no formal right to distribute.
I don't follow.
Okay, so we need to rebuild the program from scratch. What's the main point of this software?
To monitor the pages that
enormous competitor
is sending to the contractors.
Messages to the contractors, not to us.
Wait, what? So that we can make sure our messaging format is consistent with
the competition.
Wait.
What? Would they release that information to you if you asked them nicely? For your information, we had several other industry standard protocols that all entities in that particular business sector openly shared information about. So to ask such a thing was not entirely unprecedented. A clever business person could have sold it to them as a way to standardize on their messaging formats, which would have almost certainly resulted in the entire industry using them.
What? Don't be stupid, of course not.
Have you asked?
No, why would I do that?
Because you want this information, right? Surely the easiest way to get it would be to ask for it? To get it directly from the source?
They would never give us that. Stop asking. It's not going to happen.
So, as I understand it, your plan is to deliberately monitor telecommunications of which you are not the intended recipient, in order to determine the structure of our biggest competitor's outgoing messages, which you have already admitted is information they would not freely share, so may legally be considered a trade secret. And your plan to do this involves distributing copies of software that is the copyrighted work of an employee of the competition to various contractors throughout the country with documentation from us, from this company, on our letterhead with our logo emblazoned on it, on how to set up the hardware and software in order to perform such monitoring. And you see no potential issues with this plan, no possible ethical or legal gray areas.
No, why? Do you think there might be an issue with my plan?
Yes, I do.
What's the problem?
You know what? Why don't you email me the specification for the program you want built, and I'll put my response in writing. I never did receive that specification. For the record, a good friend of mine and practicing lawyer took the hypothetical question I posed him and discussed it with a few fellow legal professionals. They came back with the breaches of Telecommunications Act, the Privacy Act, corporate espionage, copyright infringement, and a few more that I don't currently recall. When I took my independent legal advice to the CEO, his response, which I'm certain in his mind was 100% ironclad and would absolutely hold up in any court of law, was,
"If the paging providers don't want us to monitor other people's pages, they should have better protection against it."
I work somewhere else now. Almost every single day, something will remind me of my old job, and without fail, I will be gladdened that I no longer work there. You guys want to know what's so great about this country? No matter how stupid you are, you can go as high as you want. This story's called Man Registers Apartment as His Wife So He Can Avoid Paying Alimony. The backfire brought me tears of joy. I'm a clerk on a civil court in Brazil, and man, I love an instant karma. In Brazil, the incomes are low and the real estate prices are high. So the most common way to buy property is by getting the bank to buy it for you, then you pay the bank back over the course of 5 to 30 years. It's similar to a lien or a mortgage, but the property legally belongs to the bank until you pay the whole debt. This part is important. Of course, this is a dumb system and a lot of people can't afford to pay the whole thing, then the bank sues them, gets the property back, blah blah. This kind of thing is at least 15% of my job. But sometimes things get interesting. The characters here are Screaming Gentleman, and me, yours truly. This started a few weeks ago. It's my counter shift. Things are quiet. Too quiet. Screaming guy shows up, looks like our classic troublemaker. A stubby man in his late 30s, ugly polo shirt, and too much cologne.
"Hey, lady, I got a letter and this thing just can't fly. I'm being evicted from my apartment."
Just a moment, I'll check it up for you. He's not only being evicted, he's being kicked out for illegally living in someone else's property without even having a rent contract. I explained that to him.
No, that's not it. This is my apartment.
Sir, who is Madame Blah Blah?
That's my ex-wife.
Okay, so Madame Blah Blah stopped paying for this apartment and the bank reclaimed it.
No, that's not right. That apartment is mine. I paid almost 100,000 Brazilian reals on it.
This is at best 2/5 of the price of any property these days. It is right. The apartment was auctioned and the new owner is evicting you.
But I'm the owner. I'm getting that apartment back.
Sir, that's not possible. It was auctioned. You weren't even on the contract.
But it's mine. I'm the one who paid for it. I just registered it to Madame Blabla's name so I can avoid paying alimony. You know how it is. I thought she was still paying the bank.
Oh, how unfortunate. I smile on the inside. So, from now, you have a few days to leave the apartment on your own volition.
Like hell I'm leaving. I'm getting a lawyer to get my apartment back. I'll fend for myself. I'm taking care of 2 of my daughters.
How many kids does this guy have?
Where do they expect us to live? I live in my apartment.
According to the lawsuit, the apartment now belongs to the bidder.
No, it belongs to me. This whole story's only a couple's quarrel.
It's definitely not a couple's quarrel. She lost the apartment 2 years ago. It was auctioned almost a year ago, and the new owner has been trying to evict him since July. Poor guy had to resort to a lawsuit because Screaming Gentleman refused to leave. Yeah, you have the right to get a lawyer, but in cases like this, it doesn't even make sense.
I'm getting a lawyer. I'm not losing what's my right. I had no idea someone was trying to steal my apartment from me. Thanks for the information.
Muttering loudly to himself,
I can't believe this crap.
I literally gave him 0 information because he wouldn't let me. Also, still, the new owner is the only person who paid anything for that property in over 2 years. Earlier this week, I checked up his lawsuit again because I was planning on posting about this case. Some unfortunate free lawyer took his case, but knowing it was completely pointless to ask to get the apartment back, the lawyer only petitioned for extra time to move out. He's not getting extra time and he'll be fined proportionally to the time he lived for free in someone else's apartment. Okay, and then for the whole free thing, there's an asterisk. If you're technically poor, the state pays very low fees so an affiliated lawyer can half-ass something for you. That sucks. Man, this guy was an idiot for leaving his ex-wife because she must have been fantastic if he expected her to be paying for an apartment he was living in. And she wasn't, and they're exes. What a dummy. This story's called Grandparent Access, a case study in the importance of getting legal advice. I'm a family lawyer in Canada. Over the last couple of years, I've seen more cases where grandparents had to go to court for access with a child. This is one of those, and it shows nicely why getting legal advice is important, even if you end up handling the case yourself. I represented Mom and Dad. Mom's parents wanted weekly access with the 4-year-old daughter. They used to see her about that often until their relationship with Mom went south, for various reasons, mostly their own fault. Trash-talking Dad in front of the kid was a big one. They represented themselves throughout the story. Reason 1. A lawyer can tell you what not to put in your affidavit. Grandma and Grandpa filed their own affidavits. They aired all their dirty laundry about the fight with Mom, relevant or not. Some good tidbits were that Mom had had an affair and had gotten pregnant by another man, hid it from Dad, and gotten a get-out-of-baby-free card. This was, in their view, a big part of what had soured her relationship with them, since they knew the truth. A lawyer would have told them, including this stuff weakened their case. When you're looking for access, you want to show that everyone can get along nicely and a judge can order access without exposing the kid to conflict. Conflict between the adults in a child's life is bad for the child, so don't amp it up. Reason 2. A lawyer can help you avoid putting your foot in your mouth in court. At the first appearance, the judge asked Grandpa if the grandparents were going to get a lawyer. He said no, they would be fine representing themselves. The judge went on to say that this can be a complicated process, and there are rules of evidence and procedure that a lawyer can help you navigate, etc. Grandpa interrupted her by speaking over her and saying,
I'm sure we'll get along fine.
There was a beat of silence in the courtroom, after which the judge said, "Well, that doesn't bode well." I was biting my lip to stop from laughing out loud. A lawyer would have told them, do not, in any circumstances, short of a medical emergency, interrupt a judge when they're talking. Just don't. And even more so, don't do it when the judge is telling you about how you need to understand the proper rules and procedures of court. Reason 3. A lawyer can tell you what you should include in your documents. The judge referred us to a settlement conference, basically mediation by another judge. This other judge would try to help us get to an agreement, including giving his opinion on strengths and weaknesses of both sides. But if it ended up in a trial, he wouldn't hear it. We all showed up and the judge started it with a 20-minute lecture on what the law is around grandparent access. He said it's not an automatic thing because you don't want to undermine parents' authority. But if there's some tangible good that the child gets out of it, it can be in the child's best interest. By this point, Grandma and Grandpa decided that they would withdraw their application, just dropping the whole thing. I think they wanted Mom to acknowledge that they are good grandparents, and they weren't getting that. Mom and Dad said they were open to them seeing the child on occasion, but didn't want a court order. Then, after they've agreed to drop it, Grandpa mentions offhand that he's teaching this girl to skate, and the parents don't skate at all. And she has said when she is bigger, she wants to play hockey. This was nowhere in any of the documents filed to date. A lawyer would have told them they actually had a pretty strong case all along. Grandpa teaching the kid how to skate is an obvious, tangible benefit that she gets. Their affidavit should have included this, and almost only this. The submissions in court write themselves. Something like, Grandpa is the only person in this child's life teaching her to skate. Blah blah, wonderful life skill, blah blah, physical fitness, blah blah, hockey is a cornerstone of Canadian culture, blah blah, enriching her life. Those are my submissions. But instead of that, they wasted a bunch of time, made their relationship with their daughter even worse, and got an award for costs against them. Get legal advice before you go to court. Ha! You lawyers are trying to steal my money. I know what you're up to. I am a freaking master when it comes to court, alright? I have played 1.5 Ace Attorney Phoenix Wright games. Yeah, get on my level. This story's called Pro Se is Never Good. How to End Up Wrongfully Accused and in Prison for Life. This is the most insane case I have ever been a part of. I am a courtroom assistant in a Southeast Asian country. We had a case where the defendant was charged with premeditated attempted murder, resisting lawful detention, criminal battery with intent to kill. The pro se defense was making an argument that on its surface seemed pretty ridiculous. A security guard chased him off the property they were guarding, detained him, brought him back to the property, and tortured him, which caused him to protect himself. By protecting himself, he gouged the eyes of a security guard, beat her into getting a depressed skull fracture with exposed brain, broke her neck, stabbed her multiple times, and ripped hair out of her head. The evidence on him seemed pretty bad against him. Looked like he was completely bullcrapping everything. To the point the judge actually stated in open court that it's the worst fabricated story he'd heard. He was convicted as charged and sentenced to life imprisonment in lieu of death penalty. He ended up getting a trial de novo after he hired a private investigator, which found some new evidence. This evidence? CCTV camera evidence was pulled from 82 different cameras, police reports, and tow records painting a very obvious picture. It showed a security guard attempting to pull him over on private property, legal, where he fled. He fled on rural public roads where the security guard was chasing him in a car with lights and siren. She utilized a PIT maneuver on the car, which made him roll off and then forcibly removed him from the vehicle. She tied him up with rope and zip ties to transfer him back to the private property. She then proceeded to beat him with a bat while he was restrained, held him captive for 6 hours, tased him for a total of 1,403 seconds, just over 23 minutes total, or approximately 200 times over a 6-hour period. He escaped restraints, to which the security guard responded by beating him with a bat. The defendant took the bat from her, struck her multiple times, gouged her eyes, and fled. The case against him was dismissed with prejudice. The prosecution service ended up opening a case on the security guard, who was in intensive care after barely surviving his response. She ended up being charged with reckless driving, reckless endangerment, vehicular battery, impersonating a police officer, unlawful imprisonment, kidnapping, criminal battery, battery with intent to kill, and torture. She died in ICU the day before she was scheduled to be tried. In case you don't know, pro se means that you're representing yourself in court like grandparents back there. But holy crap, that is terrifying. That is a terrifying misuse of your power, even if you don't really have any power as a security guard, but still. I mean, he did try to, do illegal things, but he wasn't trying to freaking murder someone. Eek. And honestly, it does seem excessive, the extent to which he beat her up. However, you do have to take into account this guy was being tortured for 6 hours. That's insane. Probably very emotional upon breaking out. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.